Final video for 2025. Let's go. Hello and welcome. Thanks so much for joining me for our final video of 2025. Yeah, baby, let's go. Okay, so one of the things that, as I was like going back over my videos, was about how proud I was of myself for doing the videos. Often we're not sharing, you know, like the little details and things like that with our friends and family. Some people, maybe they are a lot more in touch with their family than me personally, but yeah, it was just something I was reflecting on, was like this space to share those things that I think about when it comes to my journey. I'm creating a YouTube channel because, like, I guess, yeah, I felt alone in my journey becoming a counselor, and I didn't really feel like there was help out there. I didn't know who to ask. I'm doing this as kind of like a advocate for myself, but also there's a part of me that when I'm doing these videos, it helps me like process what I've learned or what I understand. Thanks for joining me on that adventure about this video, what I will be discussing today. So I'm going to be talking about like this year, so 2025, my second year of a Bachelor in Health Science degree with a major in counselling. This year has been, but also touching base and like reflecting on my first year. I find myself kind of now focused towards next year. There's a lot more demands expected next year, and workload is increased, and that's sort of where my focus is. And this is just a really great, I guess, moment for me to take to kind of settle and reflect, you know, personally, as a big advocate for each individual's own journey and like personal choice. As a counsellor, we advocate for clients' perspective. That, yeah, it's just also something that I hold very dear to my heart. And yeah, so just wanting to like bring that into my space and like acknowledge that as like respecting everyone's journey in that way. The next thing that I wanted to talk about, having goals and something to aim for, having the degree and like me working on that really helps me. It takes the edge off intense aspects of studying. So life, like for me, I'm a pretty happy-go-lucky person. Like my highest value, one of them, is like quality time and spending time with people. Yeah, having goals and something to aim for is really beneficial for everyone. We need something to aim for, and then we've got like a sense of direction, and they don't have to be massive ones. One of my other notes was just about like next year, being able to look at things in like 6-week blocks or like blocks of time and things. I now have one confirmed placement for next year. That means that I'm like committing to 40 weeks, probably more like 30 something with the school term, 10 block weeks, like more or less, that I'll kind of be like focused on, you know, as well as like semester 1 and semester 2 for uni and work, of course, as well. And like in one of my videos, I spoke about like digital detox and like being in the online space, wanting to offer online sessions in future, and that may happen sooner rather than later. Like I've got my bag that I take with me. I thought I might show you like some of the stuff that I bring. So Play-Doh, like yeah, I've got a few like things of Play-Doh in there, and when the weather's good, I've got this, and I go with some of the kids outside and we play. Also got some dinosaurs. Some of the younger kids really like dinosaurs. Play therapy is something that I've kind of got into. It helps kids, you know, be able to talk about relationships and like act out behavior. Working with kids is really dynamic. I have personally engaged psychotherapy for myself, a lot of talk, and working with kids and who I am as a person. I'm very open-minded. Being in a creative space, working with kids is really dynamic because it's not like holding a full conversation like you do with an adult. I remember saying 50 client-facing hours when I got to that mark, that got to a point where I was like, okay, I kind of have a bit of the ropes here, you know, kind of got a sense of like, okay, I think I know how to steer this thing a little bit. It's so hard to think about like all these different things that have like landed, you know. One of the things is like knowing like where to engage or where to like guide and where to like step back and like how to just let people be. And that's not a natural thing, I think, for like a lot of people. A lot of people are very busy, or they're not comfortable in silence. That sense of self in therapy as a therapist is like that. I could reflect this or guide this here. No, it's something that I have learned. Yeah, I've learned that. yeah, it's something that I've learned. What counseling is not. Building trust, done in action, building a relationship. With some of the clients that I've been working with, sometimes it happens over time. You know, they get to know you, they get to know who you are, what's expected from the space, how much a client understands, like what's explained, you know, confidentiality, just feeling comfortable enough to be able to talk about what's on your mind or like what's bothering you as a client. As a therapist or a counselor, sharing parts of yourself, like when that feels true to do so. Where does that come from? Is that coming from like trying to be liked? For me anyway, show some cards. Self-doubt. I was listening to a podcast the other day and it was like talking about something. You don't realize your self-doubt until you're trying to make like videos online and you realize like, oh yeah, these like voices, they're there to like not get you to do stuff, you know? I've written down here like let's talk projections. A reflection at the beginning of the year, I was doing a paper and I felt personally talked about it towards the end of our first year. Counter-transference and transference, and sometimes that can come up if you're going through a similar thing. There's a few different reasons why counter-transference or transference might come up. It was at this point in the video where I'd like lost my train of thought and I started to think about like the bigger picture, just so that like everyone doesn't lose their marbles and sort of follows my train of thought that I was having at this point. Speaking about an experience that I had while studying, and it was with a fellow student. We were both seeking this feeling of connection and like an experience of loneliness. And even though it was a practice session, if I speak from my experience personally, it was that I left that practice session like confused. And if I'm being 100% real, it was that I think I, as the practicing client, I experienced what I understand as a feeling of projection of like what the practicing student or practicing counselor was also desiring, but like toward me. This is one of those times where the idea that I have hasn't fully formed into the thing I'm trying to explain. I'm going to leave it here in this video. It's like a little side quest that I want to start talking about being a sensitive person, the experiences of projections, and one of the reasons that I am so eager to be a counselor is for sensitive beings. So yeah, it reminds, I've done a lot of personal development prior to the degree. I've invested in myself quite a lot. I've experienced growth in that sense. If I can quite see the correlation yet at this moment in time, because there's simultaneously so much going on. But what I'm trying to speak about is like my development as a counselor or as a therapist and my own personal life and like what's going on there. And I'm trying to speak about like how simultaneously like I'm studying and I'm going to get a degree and I'm going to have a career and that's going to be like so fucking fulfilling and like amazing, and I'm going to be so grateful for that. So that's like my professional life. In my personal life, like I'm trying to maybe reflect or direct my thinking towards what could be correlating in both of these two spaces, my personal and professional life. Also be correlating. As another example of a correlating experience that I can speak to and give you an example of to help you maybe try and understand is the creative response that I did for my assignment. So that response failed me basically for that paper, but I seemed to understand that there was more to it than just submitting that and getting into a creative rhythm. Like I know that my area of expertise or excellence is in creativity. Like I know that that's going to be a part of what I do. I failed the paper and yeah, I've got this like I'm gonna kick some ass next year with that paper. Something else that also happened was I was just really affirmed in like me choosing that as a creative response. I was probably the only one in that class who chose that response, and it probably wasn't received or fully comprehended in the way that it was meant to, you know, like the things that I spoke about had a really sacred meaning. This awareness that's developed that's greater than like me failing a paper or, you know, because I'm certainly not like burdened by failing it. I guess like one of the things that I can talk about the punch to my ego. I went through redundancy last year and I found a summer job, really struggled with it. I would drive straight to the beach afterwards and go for a swim and just reset, and it was so amazing, like especially on those hot days. Couldn't do it all the time because of like sometimes there'd be a crash, like a smash on that motorway, and it would take me like 2 hours or something like that to get home. Yeah, I had a summer job and then I didn't have work for a few months, and I guess this goes back into like what I was thinking to share about like from last year. Last year I got my own kind of it was an apartment. The impact of study on that was like I still had my own space, I could still reset at the end of the day. In April of this year, I still really want to pursue my degree. There wasn't really an option that was on the table, but everything was on the table. When I was going through the redundancy, which, you know, like it sounds all right, but if you don't have something lined up, you know, it's stressful. But when I was going through that and everybody else was able to try and like line up a placement, and at that point I didn't really know, like I didn't have a sense of direction when it came to like what placement would be for me or how to achieve that. There wasn't really anyone that we could ask for help. It was kind of more or less up to us to find placement. I was offered a few suggestions as far as like places, but nothing came of it. That was really frustrating. But as well, like I didn't know, like there was a point where I went for a job interview and that like I didn't tell them this. That would have meant like having to put my degree on pause for maybe a year, and I could not, like I can't pretend to do something I don't care about. So yeah, that was a part of what I was going through towards the end of last year. It was great. We were given like plenty of time to like the redundancy coming and things like that, which is great. When you're having to reevaluate like what you can afford, which I could not afford very much at all. Like I was given some student support through the government for a period of time, but my bills were well in excess of what I could receive through that. Yeah, bless my parents, you know, like bless them, bless my family, because yeah, I had to ask for help, and that's something that is really hard for me, is asking for help. So, which is all like a part of my journey, I guess, is like it is personal, you know. What I was speaking to at the beginning of the video is about personal choice and your journey and how it is so personal, but is also helpful, I guess, to talk about it, because yeah, it's personal, but it's also like people can relate to it, people can understand like a journey like that, because it's common, you know, like people everywhere experience that. One of the things that I've had to shift and change was my rent, because I was living alone. It was something that I could change, and what that meant was move into a flat. After having lived on my own, like that's a change in situation, and this is not like a woe is me thing. I'm literally just sharing my journey, because I know I'll look back on this and be like, oh my gosh, that was ridiculous, like you were so stressed out about that, or you know, whatever. It's taken time. It's December now. I've been in this flat since April. It takes time, you know, it takes time to get to know people. It takes time to adjust and get to know like people you live with and their schedules and how each other is, like, you know, what their sort of like general day-to-day behavior is, and like what to expect. Those expectations help everyone understand how to navigate. So that was pretty uncomfortable for me for like a few months there. Like one of the things that I'm speaking about before, in my first year I was able to come home and just like fully chill out and like be in my space, and that was fucking dope, you know. Like I really love that. Yeah, when you're sharing a flat, it's like, well, you have to access like common spaces and stuff like that, and like yeah, this is a pretty privileged conversation. This is my experience, so I'm going to speak about it. Yeah, living with others, and it's kind of helped me like in a way, you know, like there's 3 of us that live together, and including myself. That's what I was gonna say. I just got like a little bit emotional there, and I was just like, I was trying to say something. What the fuck is it? One of the things that I was kind of talking about is like how in my first year I was able to reset and like recalibrate, but since I've moved in with flatmates, I've had a couple of opportunities to pet sit, which has been amazing. I'm still in like somebody else's space, you know, living with other people. It's like my nervous system doesn't get a chance to like fully reset, so I kind of feel like I'm on go mode, you know. I feel like a bit of pressure, relief, like the house to myself. This is a part of my journey and I'm sharing it, I guess. Because I've written like what friendships are, and I was like, I wrote down projections on the other side as well. the year before starting study, I was kind of processing some personal stuff, and it was kind of deep, I guess, and I couldn't really hold space for other people as I had done like previously in my life, or like, you know, that's part of my personality, is to like people please and like listen to other people. From that point on, I could no longer really do that. I was finding it hard to even have capacity and hold myself through what I was processing. And I had just a couple of friends who would always reach out to me, and it was just this kind of expectation that like I would be able to listen to them, you know. And from that point on, I couldn't really do that, you know. Like I just realized like that wasn't, something needed to kind of shift and change there. It wasn't something that I could sustain anymore. I could not sustain that kind of friendship anymore in my life. And I guess that's like one of those things that you go through, is like, okay, if that's going to be my job, then I have to be a fucking professional about it and learn to set some fucking boundaries. You know, when it comes to friendship, family, that's a real fucking difficult thing to do. I mean, we all know that, right? Like, I'm not saying anything new. Self-care. One of our support lecturers this year was like, self-care. When I wrote this down, thinking about self-care and schedule stuff in, so like some people have to do that with sex, people have to schedule shit in. I'm certainly taking that with me on the journey ahead about self-care, how I can do that healthily. And so it's more than just like doing acts of self-care. It's making good decisions, taking care of yourself. The topic of self-care is not just like some hype, you know, it's like some real stuff. Thinking like, what do I mean by that? Actually doing, are you being intentional behind what you're doing when you're, or are you just like rhythmically like going through life, you know? Yeah. About, hopefully that makes sense about what I'm trying to speak to there. Assignment stress. Yeah, I had a interesting situation where I was trying to study with someone and they were really stressed out about the assignment, and it ended up being really not conducive to my experience of studying. How different people deal with stress. Like, I know I've got to do it. Something that I thought about in the first year was about motivation, and sometimes it's like you have a deadline and that's the thing that makes you feel it, you know. Going through the like financial situation that I did find other opportunities, babysitting, pet sitting, student job search, really being open to like opportunities. And my word for this year experience of like not having a job and trusting and everything like that was faith, and not like religious faith, but that's what I could understand that I had for this year was faith. Minded, you know, like I spoke about like going to class and attending class, and how much like that I love learning. That's something that came out of like the last couple of years, is how much I love learning. I enjoy people who are passionate about what they're doing, about what they're learning or teaching, you know, because yeah, not everyone is like a teacher. Not everyone can deliver the goods in that way. You know, one of the things that I can really speak to is like on a personal level, is having to ask for help. That's really hard. That was an edge for me. Still feels uncomfortable, you know. A 3-year degree. The first year I was like just working full-time around uni, more or less like classes and assignments. Coming into the second year, because of placements and gaining experience, and an added time commitment requirement for this year was to have 50 client-facing hours. The next year it's 150, and like that's certainly achievable. It just looks different. Is that as well as the classes? I tried to ask the lecturers, like, you know, what's the situation with next year? Like, what's the focus? And I kind of know, you know, in the back of my head that yeah, they'll push us, you know, to like develop it. We don't know what it looks like. I'm now at the end of my second year. Like next year will be my last year of my degree, and I'll definitely be taking you along for a bit of a journey. If anyone so happens to like find this channel resonate with what I'm talking about, super like appreciate that, and like thanks for hanging out, and like thanks so much for spending time, because yeah, like I said, like quality time is like one of my top values. Like share about me and about like my experiences in hopes that it will help someone too. And you know, people that I follow online, or like the people that I gravitate to, it's because I enjoy being in their space. There's stuff that you love that is happening when I'm talking or sharing the stuff that I'm sharing. Like, please let me know. I'd love to know. That'd be a vibe. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful Christmas and Happy New Year, and I look forward to seeing you next year. Tales and experiences that I have on my journey. So thank you so much.